All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and get started on making the wiring harness for the lights. That's gonna be kind of a job, but I kind of want to take you through it and show you how I do it. I'm trying to make a custom harness here that will allow me to wire these lights in, make it look factory, and not have a lot of excess wire or relays or anything like that under the hood. The Voswitch that we previously installed is going to take care of the relays and the fuses, so we don't really need to put any of that in the harness, so that should make it simpler. But the first thing we got to do is measure out how much wire we're going to need for each run. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. All right, guys, so this is just kind of the basic layout of what we're going to use to make this harness today. So I just got some electrical tape. We've got a whole thing of heat shrink, different sizes and lengths here. We've also got a couple longer rolls of black and red heat shrink. We've got some 18 gauge wire in black and red for the hot and the ground. We've got some plugs, not really the plugs that I wanted to use. They aren't Deutsch connectors. I couldn't source Deutsch connectors locally, and they haven't come in yet, the ones that I ordered. So I'm gonna use these, even if they're just temporary, kind of show you guys how to do it and see if they work. They seem to be like they'd be a pretty good connector. They snap together really well and are pretty waterproof, and under the hood I think they're going to be okay. So that may be just what I end up going ahead and using. I always want to have some zip ties just to be able to secure stuff in place to make it, you know, look a little bit more professional, so you don't have wires just dangling around. And then we got some flex conduit here that we got at Napa, a couple different sizes and lengths, and I've got some more of that as well on the shelf in the garage. So we're going to use all of this to kind of fashion the wiring harness that we need to make, and we're going to have to measure that first. And the way we're going to do that is with a string like this. We're just going to use this. This is just some old rope that I've got in the garage, and we're going to use it to kind of measure our runs, since it's flexible and it'll follow the path of the wire the way we want to route it. And then we can stretch that out flat and measure it and figure out how much wire we need for each run. So we're going to go ahead and get started doing that, and I'll show you how to do it. So the first thing we're going to start is the main wire lead going up to our cowl. It's going to fork here and run across the hood over to the other side to get that other light that we're putting on. So the main run is just going to run basically here to about here, down to where the Voswitch will be when we have it reinstalled. It's going to be right to about here. So we're going to measure that on the back table and figure out how much we need. So you can kind of see, it's a pretty long run. It doesn't all fit in the frame, unfortunately, but it's there. So I think that'll show you guys that. So let's do that real quick. So basically what we've got here is our wire length that we need. Now this isn't all going to fit in the frame very well, but we're going to measure from where I'm holding it. I'm going to just kind of take my fingers and hold the tape measure, and we're going to stretch this guy out to see what we need. So that one measures 32 inches. So we're going to do 32 inches on that first run. We're going to write that down on a piece of paper so don't forget. Very important to keep track of this. So we got 32 inches. So yeah, now we're going to measure across by securing this with a little loop. All right, so we got the next piece measured, and we're going to just measure that out right now and see what it looks like. Alrighty, so what we did was we tied a little knot on one end, and we tied a knot at the other end of our length that we need. We're just going to lay that out on the table and kind of measure it real quick. So we're just going to measure kind of down to a point and get 48 inches. We're going to hold that. We're going to come up here and measure and get 48 plus another 10 is 58 inches. So we're gonna just call that 60 inches. So we're gonna do 60 inches and 32 inches. 60. Now the other thing we gotta think about is that's the run for the positive terminal that goes over to the Voswitch. The Voswitch only has a positive terminal in it. We still need to ground the lights out. I'm gonna ground them to the grounding lug on the other side of the Jeep. So we're gonna use the same measurements but in reverse to make that side of the harness. So the ground side will be basically a mirror image of the positive side. And we're gonna go ahead and start kind of getting that together by cutting our wires. So here we go. Okay, so what you can see here is I've got a length of wire for the red and the black. I actually cut this to 36 inches just to give us a little bit extra. It gives us a couple inches on each end for stripping and splicing, etc. So two 36-inch runs, one red, one black. That'll work for that. You don't need a whole lot. We're going to solder these together, so we just need a few little millimeters exposed, probably about 10 millimeters or about half an inch or so on each wire, and that's all we're going to expose on that. So you should be able to see that pretty good in that frame. And now we're going to take our light, which is this, and it's got a connector on it as well that's already been stripped from the factory. This is the way it came. So we're going to actually strip a little bit more of this off so we've got something to work with. So what we can see here now is that we've made our solder connection, and we have heat shrunk this heat shrink wrapping over our two solder connections. So that's pretty secure, waterproof, should be good to go. We're going to tape this up just to give us a nice clean connection for the wiring harness. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start building our harness on the other side over here. So we're going to work on that, and I'll show you how that works. All right, so now what we've done basically is gotten half of our harness done here for one side of the light. So what I think we probably ought to do is figure out kind of where this light's going to sit, and then get an idea of how we're going to need to make the rest of the harness. So we're going to go ahead and take this light over here and just put it, kind of mock it up a little bit. So what we can see here is we've mocked this light up a little bit. It's going to sit right about there. We know that the cable's going to have to go down through the cowl and come forward a little ways. So that means that our harness is going to plug in right up here on the cowls. So what we can see here is this light's going to come under the cowl. It's actually going to come through this little piece of foam here that goes up into the cowling there. You can kind of see it'll come through this, probably up here, and then end up plugging into our harness somewhere over here. And then our harness is going to run this way down the fender to the Voswitch. So that means that our harness, this is maybe just a little bit long, but not too bad. So we can just go ahead and tie in our other wires here like we need to go down to the Voswitch. So we're going to go ahead and do that next. So what we're going to do now is make the other end of our harness. We're going to strip these wires off here. We're going to go ahead and strip these off now and get our wires exposed so that we can splice in our other wires that we need to. So be right back. Okay gang, so now the wiring harness is basically complete. So what we've got here is our plug that goes up to the driver's side cowl, and the light will plug in there. We've checked that. We've got our Y here going down to power that's going to go to the Voswitch when the Voswitch is installed. And then we've got our other Y for power going to the passenger side, and our ground. It goes again all the way to the other side. And then what we've done here is basically mirror it, where we've got our plug here. It's going to go over to the other side, and then we've got our power coming over, our ground coming over from the other side, and our ground wire here that's going to go down to this lug ultimately when we put a connector on it. We're going to put a ring connector on it and get it bolted in. So the other thing we've got to do now is make this look a little bit more professional than just two wires running across, and I've got some flex conduit we're going to put it in, and that'll be what we show you next. So the question is, can you get decent parts off of Amazon? And I think the answer is probably yes, based on this. I ordered this. This is from a company called Sparta Seven, I think. They probably made overseas, but you can see sevens. These are cowling mount brackets for lights on the hood of a JL or JT Gladiator. And they're really pretty well made. You open them up, the packaging's really nice. They give you a pretty nice little brochure you can open up that's got the mounting instructions. They're really simple, but they're full color, which is nice. And then you get to the mounts, and they're a piece of cast aluminum that's really well finished. The finished powder coat on it is really nice. They say sevens on them right here, and they've got their little emblem. Hope you guys can see that. But they're well made. They really are well made. They seem to be pretty robust, and they're going to go on the cowling and mount the light. And then I think I'm also going to have room to mount my antenna for the GMRS radio that we're going to run in the Jeep. So I'll be able to mount it up on the cowling and not have to do some other kind of weird little cowling mount. We can just mount it there and mount the light forward on one side. Also, apparently there's a clamp mount you can get from them that'll hold a GoPro, so you can mount a GoPro to this behind your light or off to the side or something like that. So they're really a pretty versatile mount, and they were really affordable. I think these cost about 40 bucks. So we're going to see how they work. So we're going to put them on right now. Okay, so you can see we've got the light mounted. This was a little bit more difficult than I would have liked. The bolt they gave us from Hella was a little short, so I had to get a longer bolt from the hardware store, and then it was a little long and it was contacting the cowl. So what I had to do was cut it just a little bit, and now it clears with no problem. But you can see we were able to easily route our cable through the cowling here and bring it under the cowling through our little foam insert right there, and it's just going to route around here like so and plug into our harness. Once we've got the harness in place. So the light's just going to go right here and plug into the harness, and then the harness is going to be routed up here along the firewall, zip tied to all this stuff for our headlights, and that should look pretty good when it's all done. It'll just kind of be up there, laying up there. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Okay guys, so per user request, one of our viewers has asked for a demo of the lights that we've installed. So tonight we're going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started and show you that. And it's really, I don't know that you need much more light than that. That lights up in front of me pretty well. I feel like I could drive down a trail or a dirt road in the middle of nowhere and really be able to see what was in front of me. Granted, if I was bombing through there at 90 miles an hour, this may not be adequate, but for the most part, this is more than enough light to be able to see at night, do whatever I needed to do, a night winch recovery, vehicle recovery at night, whatever. I'm going to be able to see with the lights I've got. And so I think also here, you know, the point of getting these lights is that they kind of work as a system. So we've got, you know, we can shut off everything except the headlights. And those are great for driving, especially in town. This is a daily driver. If we go to the low beams, it's enough to be able to drive around town, even drive on the highway and meet traffic and not have to worry about blinding anybody. Now, as we get out on back roads that maybe don't have street lights that we need to see a little bit more for, you know, we've got our high beams on, we can turn the fog lights on, and we can certainly see better off to the sides. We can see the whole roadway, see an animal coming out from the shoulder in front of us, give us a little bit of early warning. And then as we really get back into the woods and want more light, or we've got to go recover one of our buddies that's been out too long and it's getting dark, we've got extra. So we've got all the light we need now to do whatever we've got to do at night out in front of us. So yeah, I think pretty happy with these. These Hella lights are excellent. They're very high quality. They're die-cast aluminum bodies. They've got 6 very high quality LEDs, and Hella makes probably some of the best reflectors on the market. So they're very efficient, very good lights. They aren't overly large. I was kind of concerned about putting a larger light up here, that it would kind of be a little too much up against the windshield, that I'd really see it and it'd be intrusive in my field of view when I was driving. And while I can see these,
They aren't obtrusive. And they give plenty of light to be able to do whatever I'm going to do. So that's going to close out our video for tonight. I hope you guys like this. I hope you enjoy the content, and please go back and watch the first part of this if you haven't already, to see the Voswitch install. We didn't really go into any of that on this video. And if you like this content, please like and subscribe and click the notification bell. And that's going to close out the video for tonight. I'm Landon, and this is Order the Traveling Hats, and we hope to see you out there.